Bandra Sadwa Samaya Manu Palaya Bandra Sadwa Denu Bai Dildra Dedo Memba Soto Kaya Memba Wai Zubu Kaya Memba Anurado Memba Wai Sarwa Sede Mebraya Sarwa Krama Suza Me Zedan Shreya Kuru Ha 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 Bhagavan Saravata Dangata Bandra Mame Munza Branzimba Mahasamaya Satwa Om Bandra Sadwa Samaya Manu Balaya Bandra Sadwa Deno Bai Dildra Dedo Meba Sodo Kayo Meba Vai Zubu Kayo Meba Anurado me bawa sarva sede me praya sarva krama suza me zedan shreya guru ha 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 bhagavan sarva dada gata bandrama me munza baranze bhava ma samaya satva
All other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent. I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness, the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. Bajra Samaja, Bajra Samaja, Bajra Samaja. Protectors of all sentient beings without exception, deities who vanquish the ruthless hordes of Maras, knowers of everything as it is, Bhagavans and your retinues, please come here. Argyam Padyam Pushpe Dupe Aloke Gende Nevede Shabda Pratija Soham. This ground sprinkled with scented waters and strewn with flowers, adorned with the supreme mountain, four continents, sun and moon, I hold in mind as a Buddha land and offer it. May all wandering beings experience such a pure realm, whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. Now please turn to the general laying aside text. Alas, great Guru Vajra holder, and all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who reside in the 10 directions and 3 times, I who am called Kunjo Yeshe Dorje supplicate you, turn your awakened attention to me. from beginningless samsaric time until this very moment, under the power of the afflictive emotions, attachment, aggression, confusion, pride, and jealousy, I have committed the 10 non-virtuous actions through the gates of my body, speech, and mind. I have committed the 5 heinous crimes and the 5 secondary heinous crimes. I have transgressed the individual liberation vows, transgressed the precepts of bodhisattvas, and transgressed the samayas of the great vehicle secret mantra. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards the 3 jewels. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my gurus and teachers. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my father and mother. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my companions in the pure spiritual life. I have abandoned the sublime Dharma and disparaged the noble Sangha. In short, I now lay aside all faults and transgressions whatsoever that have become obstacles to the higher realms and to liberation, and that have become the cause for samsara and the lower realms. Before you, the great Guru Vajra holder, and all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and 3 times, I expose the faults, I confess them, I am contrite. I regret them, I will not conceal them, I will not hide them. Henceforth I will restrain myself and abstain from them. If I do not expose and lay them aside, they will not be transformed. Therefore, by revealing and laying them aside, may they be clear, may I be purified. Namo to the mandala of you, victorious Idam deities. I expose and confess the broken samayas of the Vajra exalted body. I expose and confess the broken samayas of the Padma exalted speech. I expose and confess the broken samayas of the perfect exalted mind. I expose and lay aside the broken root and branch samayas. I expose and lay aside transgressions committed knowingly. I expose and lay aside transgressions committed unknowingly. The 3 non-virtues of the body, the 4 non-virtues of speech, the 3 non-virtues of the mind. I confess each of the 10 non-virtues individually, with faultless disciplined conduct, possessing completely pure disciplined conduct, and through the disciplined conduct that is free from arrogance, may the paramita of disciplined conduct be perfected. To glorious Vajrasattva I pay homage. Bhadra Sato Samaya Manobalaya Basa Sato Deno Badida Deda Meba Vasudokaya Meba Vasubokaya Meba Nurada Meba Vasavasina Meba Jasava Kamasu Jamajiram Ziranguru Hong Hao Bhagavan Samadara Gada Besama Jabasibo Mahasamaya Sato Bhadra Sato Samaya Manobalaya Basa Deno Badida Deda Meba Vasudokaya Meba Vasubokaya Meba Nurada Meba Vasavasina Meba Jasava Kamasu Jame Chetang Shreya Guru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Samadana Gata Basama Jabasi Baba Mahasamaya Sato Bhadra Sada Samaya Manobalaya Basasa Drabade Do Memba Vasuka Yomeba Suboka Yomeba Nurado Memba Savasiri Memba Javaka Masu Jamajiram Zeranguru Hong Ha Bhagavan Samadana Gata Basama Jabasi Baba Mahasamaya Sato Bhadra Sada Samaya Manobalaya Basara Denopade Do Memba Vasudusho Memba Vasubasho Memba Nurado Memba Vasavasiri Nobeja Sabakamasu Jamajam Zeranguru Hong Ha Bhagavan Samadana Gata Basama Jabasi Baba Mahasamaya Sato Bhadra Sada Samaya Manobalaya Bajrasata Denopa de do member was a doga member was a boga member one redo member was a member Jasavakamasu Jamajanam Zeranguru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Besamame Munja Besiva Mahasamaya Sadhu Aum Basra Sada Samaya Madhubalaya Basarada Denobade Dade Do Man Baba Sudokaya Man Baba Supokaya Man Baba Anurato Man Baba Sabasidi Man Prayaja Savakama Sujame Janam Jiram Guru Hong Ha Ha Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Besamame Munja Besiva Mahasamaya Sadhu Basra Sada Samaya Mandabalaya Basarada Denobade Dade Memava Sudokaya Memava Supokaya Memava Anurato Memava Sabaside Membraja Sabakama Sujame, Janam Janangurong, Ha 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 Ho Magaman, Sabadagata Basama Memujabazebawa, Mahasamaya Sado. Please look at page 3 of this general laying aside practice. So I've started briefly going over this, the contents of what we are reciting here. So last time we looked at this, I talked about the 3 vows: the individual liberation vow, the determination, the commitment to become free from the causes of suffering, to achieve the causes of happiness. Based on seeing clearly, our condition, understanding what the Buddha taught with regards to where suffering comes from and how we can put an end to suffering. And so starting with the 4 Noble Truths, seeing how suffering comes about and how to abandon suffering, seeing the faults of samsara, then we make this vow, make this determination. Then the second vow is the Bodhisattva vow. When we see the limits of working for and thinking about liberation from suffering, from confusion, just limited to ourselves, when we see the limits of that, we give rise to the Bodhisattva vow. And the vow to skillfully care for and to help not just ourselves, but for all beings. Beings are difficult, for sure. But no matter how difficult, we try to train to see them as our mothers. Maybe our mothers are difficult, but no matter how difficult, we train. Then we ourselves, as mothers of one form or another to others, we are also probably difficult. So seeing that we are all in the same boat, so to say, then we work for the benefit and the welfare of all. Then the secret mantra vow. That vow is to affirm the vow of our fundamental innate nature as Buddhas. And then train accordingly to actualize that. So we have looked at that. Now in the next section, it says Konjo Sumla. Konjo Sumla, the Tibetan. Konjo. Kon is like rare and Jo is supreme. So what is rare and supreme? Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So Konjo Sum. The rare and supreme, what is not explicitly stated here, but is understood as the rare and supreme jewels. So sometimes we call them the 3 jewels. Konjo Sum are the 3 jewels, which is also the 3 refuges, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. They are rare, Kon, and Jo, supreme. The rare and supreme jewels, Konjo Sumla. So with regards to the Konjo Sum, I have been faithless and disrespectful. Ma De Ching Ma Guba. De Ching is respect. Guba is faith. So Ma is lack of respect and lack of faith towards the three jewels. So in this section, several objects are identified. The three jewels, our gurus, our teachers, our parents, and our companions on the path to awakening. These four groups. These four groups cover kind of the extent of where we need to pay careful attention towards. Yes? Yes, Judy? Oh.
I didn't do that. I don't know. Maybe it was from yesterday. Sorry.
It just popped up in this moment. Sometimes the other thing that happens is suddenly the Zoom spirits would unmute you. That also happens. Anyway, so these three, these four, we have to pay special attention to, because if we don't, then our own ability specifically, to achieve the goals that we say we want to achieve through Dharma practice cannot be accomplished. Basically, disrespectful and faithless comes from, right, in the end, our own self-grasping. So towards the three jewels, and then towards next, Lama Dang Lopen. Lama here, of course, we just habitually call anyone who is ordained as a monk. We say Lama, Lama, Lama. Here, Lama doesn't mean just anybody, who is ordained. It's just kind of habitually, in a way, kind of to be respectful, we call people Lama so-and-so, Lama so-and-so. But Lama here is talking about the Mahamudra, Vajrayana Guru. Then Lopan is like our teachers, more generally our teachers. So if we are disrespectful towards the three jewels, then that's that's it, right? Faithless and disrespectful towards the three jewels, then no Dharma practice, right? No practice of Buddha Dharma. So now we feel, we have confidence in the three jewels, in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Noble Sangha. Good, so you have entered. Now that you have entered, you need to rely on guides. From the Lopan all the way to the Lama. Lopan here signify, any spiritual teacher who teaches the Dharma. You can generally call Lopan, although in monastic circles, Lopan these days also is a specific title that is given. Then Guru, again, there is the ordinary use of the word Guru or Lama as a polite term to call usually the ordained. But Guru here is talking about the Guru that we receive empowerment from, the Guru that we get pointing out instructions from, the Guru that we feel that we're receiving transmissions from. in the end, right, who is a guru to us and who is a lopan to us? It's not really from the guru side, from the lopan side. From the guru side and from the lopan side, if they are reliable, authentic, right, guru and lopan, their very kind of existence and purpose is to guide and is to teach. So sometimes you even hear, very strong, perhaps extreme in a little bit, but there's truth to it. That how certain individuals whose life is dedicated to being teachers, but because of some breach in the relationship between them and their students, for whatever reason, actually, there's a breach, there's a break, there is a unfortunate, powerful break of that. And then teachers die. Extreme as in, if we say this, it might kind of like terrorize people into, their relationship with teachers. Here, without getting superstitious, what it's saying is like, that person's existence as a teacher is no longer needed, or it's no longer possible. It has broken. So then they have no reason, Gilbert Rinpoche, in one of the teachings, it says that the difference between, there are these words, called ce. Ce is lifespan. And then sok. Sok is like life force. And normally that's how it's translated. Ce and sok. In one very unique teaching Gilbert Rinpoche gave, he said, what do you know what is the difference between ce and sok? He says, ce is lifespan, and lifespan, he said, is measured by, interestingly, he said, is measured by, he did not say measured by the number of days and the number of years and the number of months. He says lifespan, and so there might be some take-home lesson for us. If I remember correctly, he says lifespan is measured by the number of inhalation and exhalation you take. So if you want to live longer, learn how to breathe more deeply and less hurried. If you go you're taking much more breath, right, in the span of like 1 minute. And so he says that's ce, that's lifespan. And in a way, when we are born, there's already some amount of ce that has been determined by our karma for this lifetime. And so he said, you could lose your life if some kind of very negative karma is created in this lifetime, or some kind of very negative karma from the past suddenly ripens due to conditions, then ce could be cut. That's one way, one reason at least, that you could die. Another reason you could die is sok. Sok exhausting, sok getting cut, life force. And this discussion about sok is really interesting. He says sok is related to the life purpose that you have dedicated your life to. And here he says, The examples he gives is interesting. He says, if you have dedicated your life to robbing others, and you stop, for whatever reason, robbing, you could die. Of course, this is not an advice to say, if you have dedicated your life to robbing others, you should continue to rob if you don't want to die. But it's really interesting where he says, talk is kind of like about your life purpose. It's like, what are you driven by? In other words, talk is related to that. What are you driven by to wake up in the morning to keep going? So here, this is related to the teachers. Talk could be cut if something negative happens, and then they give up. Then talk is cut. So anyway, if we are faithless and disrespectful towards the three jewels, then nothing else to say. But then now we have faith and we have respect towards the three jewels. Good. Now they enter the gate of Dharma. Now we are inside this Dharma room now. But if in there we are disrespectful and faithless towards our gurus, towards Lopan, so as I was saying, in this relationship, in a way, it's more up to you whether someone is you can relate to as guru and Lopan or not. If you cannot, even if Buddha Shakyamuni is in front of you, you are too arrogant. Then you cannot learn anything from Buddha Shakyamuni. Many people were alive during Buddha Shakyamuni's time in his area, never saw him as Buddha, much less saw him as a guide or teacher. Then not possible. In the more traditional teachings, I don't usually like to bring this up, but then sometimes I think maybe I'm doing a disservice. If you really read, if you want to really read, it's a little, I don't know, it's a little strong, the language. There's one very important text called the 50 verses for relating with the Guru, attributed to one of the great masters. 50 verses on how to relate to the Gurus. People have asked me to teach this text, and I said, no, I don't want to teach this text. You can take a look yourself, if you're really curious. But then don't panic, Some time ago, somebody in our Sangha, after years of practicing, came to me and said, I have to fess up. I have to confess, he said. I said, I've been arrogant and I think I have, caused some samaya problems towards you. Said to me like that. I said, not from my side. I said, not from my side. In fact, I never thought of you like that. But more importantly, actually, it's from your side. So if you come to that realization and you need me to play my part, in helping you unburden that, then sure, I will do that. But from my end, I usually don't, I cannot say 100%, I usually don't relate to people, to any of you, in those samaya terms. But there is a broader context, so if I would be irresponsible if I don't point you to that context, and you yourself can go look and see what these traditional texts say. But the point is here that, please work on refining yourself for your own sake. And watch, what you do, Because further down it says, I've been faithless and disrespectful towards my father and mother. Why father and mother? Because they are, however wrongly or rightly after you were born, the bottom line is still you were not born to them without karmic, very strong, powerful karmic connection. And rightly or wrongly, however you have been treated or raised by them, if you believe in cause and effect karma, then know that, recognize that there is some very powerful karma that have brought you together, and at least in this lifetime, everything that they have given you, they gave for no other reason than, you were born to them. Yes, we say, from one perspective, well, they brought me into this world. I didn't ask for it. Well, that's not a Dharma point of view. Dharma point of view is they were doing whatever they were doing and you latched on to them. And you latched on to them. So either way, right? There's some very strong karma there. Likewise, our karma with the three jewels, our karma with those that we learn Dharma from, there's very strong karma there. Do you believe that or not? And finally, there's very strong karma, as well, with the Dharma companions, companions in the pure spiritual life. So be careful also in how you relate to them. Be careful what you say. Be careful what you do. Faithless and disrespectful towards our Dharma companions. That also will negatively, will obstruct our ability to really get results from our Dharma practice. And the fact that these four are highlighted here and the laying aside needs to sincerely happen with regards to having been faithless and disrespectful towards the three jewels, towards those we take Dharma from, towards our father and mother, and towards our companions in spiritual life. These four circles, so to say. Pay attention to these four circles. The fact that these four are brought out here also says, now if you imagine your path to be where these four circles you are completely no problem with, very rare. Maybe you are so advanced, but even the Buddha had to deal with these four, which means difficulties are going to arise. That there are difficulties arising just means that something is going on. So it's not always bad news, That we are stubborn, that we are arrogant towards our teachers. It means something is going on, of course. It means they are rubbing us the wrong way, At the very least, you can think of it that way. And then you have to ask, why are they rubbing me the wrong way? Why are they annoying me? Why is what they are saying annoying me? Well, go investigate and see. If your conclusion is they don't know any better, that's why they are annoying me, then please walk away. You don't have Dharma connection there to continue to get involved. You are just causing damage to yourself. You're wasting the other person's time. But if you are being rubbed the wrong way, and also no hard feelings, because none of this should be personal. Then, if we're being rubbed the wrong way, and then we investigate and we say, oh, yeah, they are doing their job, I hired them, so to say, and these days we don't even hire because everything is basically free, right? But in theory, I hired them to point out my faults. But then once my faults are being pointed out, I don't like. Yeah, of course, all of us are like that, you know. Yeah, of course, all of us are like that, you know. Me too. But it's still true that what do you want, you know, out of this? So maybe you are more familiar with the model of going to a therapist, you know. If all you want is the therapist to say things that you like to hear, I don't think this is a really good therapist. Well, at least in going to a therapist, you're willing to pay, they're willing to take your money. So even if it is not a very effective therapist, yeah, it's your time out every week. Well, I guess it's a fair exchange, you know. But if you're not paying and they're not taking your money, you know, then the terms of your relationship you need to re-examine. Don't abuse. Then your Dharma companions also, you know, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be difficult because in some ways, especially, you didn't choose them. In the same way, like your biological siblings, you know, you didn't choose them, so to say. Not on the karmic level, but on the level that you normally think, you didn't choose them. They turn up at the same place because of your parents. Likewise, where you learn Dharma, where you practice Dharma, you didn't choose your, you know, Dharma siblings. They just turn up in relation to the teacher, the teachers. It's not going to be easy. And so we will lose faith. We will become disrespectful towards them. But don't be proud of that, you know. We need to lay aside. So these 4 circles, these 4 groups, please pay close attention to. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. Collecting knowledge is useless. You're bored, go do something else. Then I have abandoned the sublime Dharma and disparaged the noble Sangha. In fact, if we don't pay attention to the last 4 contexts and let it deteriorate, then it can lead to abandoning the sublime Dharma and disparaging the noble Sangha. So in short, I now lay aside all faults and transgressions whatsoever that have become obstacles to the higher realms, meaning obstacle to even short-term happiness in samsara, can be cut, can stand in the way, and also obstacles to liberation, and instead have become the cause for samsara and the lower realms. So this we need to lay aside. Before you, the great Guru, Vajra holder, and all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and 3 times, I expose my faults, my shortcomings, I confess them. I am contrite, I regret. These are all synonyms, basically. All the different, nuances of the feeling that we should have with regards to our actions, our mindless actions. Mostly mindless, meaning they're not usually committed out of, you wake up and you go, I'm going to be arrogant today. I'm going to be, jealous today. I'm going to be angry today. No, it's all from being mindless. That's why mindful is emphasized so much, Most of the causes of suffering we cause is created mindlessly. So that's why laying aside is so important. That's why that means don't kid yourself, If you kid yourself, then no progress. So I expose these faults, I confess them, I'm contrite, I regret them, I will not conceal them, I will not hide them. Henceforth, I will restrain myself. Restrain yourself and abstain from them. Because if I do not expose and lay them aside, then they cannot be transformed. This idea of transforming. Normally, we should think of these faults as something to be cleared. Generally speaking, that's a better way to think of it. To clear. Just like if you have dirt, if you have a stench on a piece of clothing, you wash them, meaning what? You clear, right? You remove. So normally better to think of our faults as something to be removed. But here the language used is transformed. So this is a more subtle point in a way. Transform means it's in a way a more subtle, maybe you could say a more sophisticated, but sophisticated for what purpose? Sophisticated as in perhaps a more effective way for us to relate to our faults. There is the importance of seeing faults as faults and not making excuses for them. That's a good place to start. Then at some point, we should recognize our faults to be the temporary obscurations of our qualities. Faults being temporary obscurations of our innate qualities. And in that sense, we can transform them. But this language of transformation should not at all deteriorate or turn into, the fault of killing can be transformed. Now I can practice enlightened killing. No. The fault of, stealing can be transformed. Now I can steal. No, the 10 non-virtues are always non-virtues. Here is a deeper level kind of idea of transformation, which is an attitude towards our faults, whereby don't see faults as so solid and concrete. See that in the process of clearing, see that faults are the temporary obscured qualities. And that if we remove the obscuration, if we clear the temporary obscurations, these faults can be transformed. And to do that, we have to expose and lay them aside. Therefore, by revealing and laying them aside, may they be cleared. So we come back to the language of clearing. May they be cleared, and may I be purified. This I here would be our mind stream. May that mind stream be purified. May the continuity, the cause and effect of moment from moment to moment of our consciousness be purified, meaning be cleared of these temporary obscurations. We have to, this is called phenomenal. I'm using, this is vocabulary from Chinese Buddhism actually, but of course based on the same sources that the Buddha taught. This is called confession or laying aside on the level of phenomena. Then confession and laying aside on the level of principle or essence. That is the realization of the emptiness nature of all faults. So both types of laying aside needs to happen. The phenomenal level, relative bodhicitta. The principle level, ultimate bodhicitta. These are the two bodhicittas that we have to actualize. Okay, now Nirnipa's Mahamudra manual. So yesterday I talked about the 5 awakenings. And I also gave you Gilbert Rinpoche's special teachings. This is part of what is known as the 10 dharmas. There are the 10 dharmas and the 3 dharmas are terms that you encounter in these early Dugong texts. Then over time, less and less you hear a reference to the 10 dharmas and the 3 dharmas. But Gilbert Rinpoche consistently will say, if you really want to practice, if you really want to have the essence of what I have to teach you, you have to practice the 10 dharmas and the 3 dharmas. 10 and 3 is actually referring to dharmas that are only to be taught to groups of 10 and no more. And dharmas that are to be taught to groups of 3 and no more. Then because of that, I think it kind of fell out of now. Maybe, I don't know, nobody is being taught the 10 dharmas and the 3 dharmas. This is talking about how this should not be taught like so widely, openly, not because out of stinginess, but to prevent misunderstanding. So anyway, I'm not indiscriminately sharing things about the 10 dharmas and the 3 dharmas. Dharmas for 10, dharmas for 3, but drawing from some of the teachings from in there. I think this awakening one is especially crucial for us to understand as we do the creation stage of Chakasamvara. So the 5 awakenings from yesterday, it's not an easy topic, but also don't think too much about it. Also, I would say don't try to research more about it, not useful. However much I shared with you yesterday, that much I feel is enough. Just try to understand that much. So, to briefly summarize kind of yesterday, right? So there are correspondences between outer phenomena and inner phenomena. That's the underlying principle. So then there are correspondences between the process of confusion and the process of awakening. So when deluded, it plays out this way. When free from delusion, it plays out this way. Yeah? So this is related to some very important points made in the Gongchik of Gyalpa Jigten Sumgön. Gongchik is called the single intention. It crystallizes some of the most unique viewpoints of Gyalpa Jigten Sumgön. Several translations of different versions of this text. This tradition has been published. The most extensive one is this book, this thick, called The Buddha's Single Intention. Chock full of wonderful details. The first line of the Gongchik, even the first line has several versions if you look through the ancient texts. So, which to me, again, points to how in the early Kagyupa tradition, we are not such word-based fundamentalists, which is over time kind of have become that. But in the early days of the Kagyupa tradition, words are used much more lightly. But nonetheless, the first statement in the Gongchik, Gongchik consists of 150 statements, the main statements, and then there's about 40 to 50 auxiliary statements. These are all compiled by Jigten Sumgön's main successor, Chenga Sherab Jungne, also called Drigong Lingpa. So the passage I've shared with you about the 7, or maybe I shared it on Facebook, the 7 points in terms of training in loving kindness. That's from Drigong Lingpa. No, actually, that's from Drakpa Jungne, the moon disciple. There is the sun disciple, the moon disciple. So the sun disciple, Chenga Sherab Jungne, or Drigong Lingpa, compiled most of the teachings of Kyopa that we have today. Anyway, what was I talking about? Too many digressions.
First statement of the Gongchi.
Gongchik, yes. So Drigong Lingpa, so it is one line, it says, Shisam Babki Neluk Ten. Shisam Babki Neluk Ten. Sometimes, so Shisam Babki Neluk Ten. She is ground or the natural state. Some is translated into English as or, like either or, or. Then bab, bab is literally bab is like rain bubs, meaning rain comes down, rain rains down. That's the verb bab. She, some, bab. So she is like natural state. Some or. So she is straightforward enough. The natural state. Or bab. Ki neluk. Neluk is like the natural abiding, the natural way that they are. So the natural way of the natural state, or the natural way of the bab the Buddha has shown. That's kind of a rough translation of Shisam Babki Neluk Ten. Here, she is talking about emptiness. Bab can also be translated as natural state or fundamental state. And then often I think people read it as that this statement is kind of giving you synonyms. You can call it she, you can call it bab. Whether you call it she or you call it bab, which both can be translated as the fundamental state, the natural state, the Buddha taught about that. But actually, if you take bab in its more literal sense, rain downs, how it rained down, there is talking about how subtle and gross cause and effect, interdependence play out. How samsara plays out, how nirvana plays out, how they unfold, the Buddha taught about that. So the Buddha not only taught about the emptiness essence of all phenomena, the Buddha also taught how phenomena of confusion plays out, how the phenomena of suffering plays out, and settles into their own place. How the phenomena, how the workings of happiness and the causes of happiness plays out. And likewise, here in our context, how creation stages play out. The bab of creation stage, the raining down. It really has a sense of raining down and settling into where they should settle. That there is a natural pattern to all of this. So the five awakenings, is how Buddha nature plays out, so to say. Plays out to its logical conclusion of Buddhahood. So you're going from Buddha nature to Buddhahood. And this is how it plays out. And it plays out in the manifestation, in the arising of the supreme deity of the creation stage. Meanwhile, all of us, it's how samsaric identity plays out. From death in our last life, to wandering through the bardo, to arriving to this life, and taking birth in this life, and playing out our samsaric identities. Now we train in creation stage to prepare for the next playing out. Yeah? So that when appearances of this current life sets, like the sun setting, we know what to do. Then when appearances for the next life begins to dawn, we know what to do because of how we have habituated the five awakenings through this creation stage, rituals or stages, called rituals, but sometimes we think it's how to ring your bell, how to pick up your vajra. Now, those things are important for communal practices. They have their place, but that's not the real meaning of how these creation stage. So, in another class with the Tibet House Guatemala, right now we're looking at the Gongchik, some of the Vajra statements. So some of you are getting a much fuller understanding of what I'm talking about because I see your faces. I know you have been taking those classes. And we are at that point, we are looking at these Vajra statements. So in the Vajra statement regarding the creation stages, Gyalpa Rinpoche says that, advanced practitioners need the more extensive rituals. Again, he's not talking about, need rituals with more fancy drums and bells and smells and bells, He's talking about these various stages of the sadhana. So beginners can start with simply, out of emptiness arise a lotus, on top of the lotus is a mundus, on top of a mundus is a syllable, syllable transforms into deity. As beginners, we can just start there. But don't misunderstand these stages given in more detailed, with more details, more extensive, in other words, to be things that the Buddhas create in order to humor or to entertain those of us who like many, many details. The Gongchik specifically addresses that and said that's a wrong view, or rather that's gross, not subtle enough understanding. It says that Buddha did not ever give anything in order to pander to our confusion, to feed our confusion. Instead, everything that the Buddha taught, and all its fine details, are for more subtle levels of clarifying, clearing, transforming, exposing more and more subtle faults, clearing more and more subtle faults, and therefore uncovering more and more profound qualities. So on page 26, in the state of emptiness, so within the state of emptiness, so meditating on the state of emptiness is the first awakening, right? Yeah, the dissolution of all the aggregates, body and mind, relinquishing, fixation on that as I, me, and mine, cultivating the understanding that all phenomena are emptiness, free from the extremes of conceptual elaborations. I'm reading from the top of 26. Then in the state of emptiness, and there is the first abhisambodhi, the first manifest awakening. And this is related to death that has been experienced at the end of last playing out. Last life, last playing out of our karmic baggage as samsaric beings. Now we uncover, you could say, what is truly going on is actually awakenings, bodhi. But because we didn't recognize, so then it plays out as samsara. Your mind arises in the form of the letter Hung, from which light radiates. From Yam comes a mandala of wind, then Ram mandala of fire, Vam mandala of water, Lam mandala of earth. Upon that, from Sum comes Mount Meru, which has the four precious substances. Yesterday I shared what they are. Again, this is from another set of instructions that Kyoba Rinpoche gave for the co-emergent Chakasamvara practice. He tells us in the eastern is beryl, precious substance, eastern side of Mount Meru. Southern side is gold, right? And the back side, western side is rubies, and then the green sapphire on the northern side. I've also suggested and mentioned before, when we talk about north, south, east, west, we're not talking about, what the compass tells you. Mostly we're talking about east is what's in front, south is what's to your right, west is behind, north is to your left. Yeah. So also, yesterday I shared how Kyoba Rinpoche said, it's important to cultivate this point about Mount Meru being at the base of then this lotus, right? Then from Bam comes this multicolored lotus. So these multicolored lotus is huge because Mount Meru is huge. It's the cosmic mountain. Then a big multicolored lotus unfolds with all its petals. In the base of the inside of the lotus arises this cross vajra, laying down flat like this. Then from there, out of the ali, which is the vowels, this is called alikali, is the Sanskrit syllabary, alikali. From the ali, meaning from the vowels, the A, I, U, E, O, from those vowels, A, E, O, Sanskrit vowels, long, short and long, A, E, U, E. From those, transform into a moon disk. Then from the Kali, from the consonants, Ka, Ka, Ga, Nga, transform into a red seed. And this is the second awakening up until here, which less elaborated version is just sun and moon, moon and sun, sun and moon disk. Various deity sadhanas will have slight differences in terms of which seat, which moon is at the bottom or sun is at the bottom. In this case, moon is at the bottom, sun is stacked on top of moon. Second Sambodhi, second manifest awakening now. In the center of that, light radiates from the letter Hung. And so now the third Sambodhi is the syllable Hung. Now in our text here, it doesn't explicitly mention, but this Hung is inside a blue Vajra. So you should also meditate, cultivate that blue Vajra. And that blue Vajra is a more, you could say, substantial appearing of the mind. The more subtle is the Hung syllable. Then the more formed is the blue Vajra. That's the third Sambodhi. Now, linking it back to how, when we don't recognize them to be the awakenings and we are playing out the story of samsara, moon and sun are the reproductive essences of our father and mother. Hung syllable is the mind now going towards that. Blue Vajra is now conception has taken place and gestation is beginning. Now we have 4 awakenings, right? Then the text here says, light radiates out from the Hung in the Vajra, clearing the obscurations of all beings and transforming them into the hosts of deities of Jagasamvara. The light then gathers back and absorbs into the Hung, melting as bodhicitta, meaning bringing the bodhicitta of all Buddhas into this. And from this complete transformation in a single instant, you are born as Jagasamvara. This is the 5th awakening. This is descending from the birth canal and birth into the world. These are the 5 awakenings. Now questions maybe. Yesterday we stopped a little early. I had to go give a talk somewhere else. Yes, Rodrigo.
Thank you, Jan. And this visualization are going in front of us or inside of us?
Yes, I know. For many years when I started, this path, it has been a plague. What do you think?
I think it's in the space of emptiness.
Yes, and then so what does that mean?
That's my question.
I know. Yes.
That's exactly my question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not here, it's not there, it's nowhere in particular and everywhere. Right? But yeah, this just shows, right, how fixated we are on this body. Intellectually, we say, "Oh, this body don't exist."
Hmm.
Yeah, but if this body don't exist, then why are you concerned with? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? Where we think, here, 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 here. It's all based on. So we're still fixated.
Hmm.
So actually, the more we are able to train in the first awakening, the first Abhisambodhi, awakening through emptiness, the stronger that habituation has occurred, the less we will be kind of stuck in, should it be here? Should it be here? Should it be here? Should it be here? But meanwhile, of course, we're going to be stuck.
Yeah.
So much so that, if you have struggled with this long enough, which is all good, you may even sometimes you may even hold a statue or a painting of Jagasamvara like right here and try to feel, yes, this is where I am. But then still, this is taking up a lot of space, But when we can have a lighter, a less heavy investment in this being I, then wherever this manifestation, wherever this arising is arising, doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's no ego, there's no I. There's no, but
this reference point becomes less and less relevant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, where most of us are at, try to appreciate, try to actualize more and more the first awakening through understanding emptiness. Then it can be there, but you are there.
Mm-hmm.
Then it can be there, it can be there, it can be there, it can be there, it can be there. Wherever is no longer important because this is becoming less and less relevant. So anywhere is just fine. But as long as this remains very strong, then we have to struggle with, is it here? 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 Is it here?
It's in everywhere.
Yes. And the point is everywhere, occupying all time and space.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
As a practical thing, to train, to habituate your mind to this image, right? Although don't be so, I've already suggested, don't be so stuck on, the image, because that's why generally this is through my years of experience. You don't trust this, then do something else. I'm sharing with you. I also feel that don't look too much at images of tankas. Just look at it as a reference point. Because you have to you have to cultivate the principles behind these cultural reference points, right? Essentially, like if you take a academic point of view, a more objective academic point of view of, say, an analysis of the image of Jagasamvara, yeah? He's basically based on the Hindu god Shiva.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Vajrayana working with the context of Vajrayana, which is India. I mean, we may say, oh, Shiva is a Hindu god. Well, Shiva is not a Hindu god. Shiva is an Indian god before Hindu, Jain, Buddhist. Because Hindu, Jain, Buddhist, and Hindus of all types. Hinduism is just kind of a general term for a whole family of religions. So Shiva is an Indian god. Some Hindus understand Shiva in this way. Some other Hindus understand Shiva in that way. For the Shaktas, those who are followers of the goddess tradition in India, Shiva is understood as a consort, right? Kind of a secondary of Shakti. For Shaivites, those who follow Shiva's way, they say Shiva is supreme being and also the supreme consciousness. For Vaishnavites, another type of Hindu, they see Shiva as a lesser embodiment of God. Nonetheless God, but a lesser embodiment, as in a partial expression of God. You see, so even among Hindus, there's different interpretations of exactly what Shiva means. Likewise, in Vajrayana, we also use the same image, more or less, but we call him Chakasamvara, and we have a different understanding of who is this. So no need to get too bogged down by and limited by how tankas, how statues represent. Use that as a cue. But then, of course, use that as a cue, then yes, of course, there are paintings. You train by looking at them. Yeah. So put on your iPad. And as a beginning training, don't get too complicated. Just the Lord and the Lady. Get used to that first. Meaning the male and the female. This is the meaning of co-emergent. Arising together is the Lord and the Lady. Normally, it's translated as father and mother, Yapyum, which is a literal translation. I think that translation, although it's literal, don't communicate the meaning. And so in my translations, I call them Lord and Lady. And so it's this majestic aspect of why they're called Yapyum. Then when you have a clear kind of image of this, and then you cultivate that image, then that's your authentic arising of your self as Chakasamvara, Lord and Lady, Yapyum, co-emergent. Then over time, that arising will become more and more refined, actually, which is your own, so to say. It will become more and more refined, more and more clear, way clearer, way more alive than what you see in the tankas, in the statues. Then from there, after the main two, in the paintings of Jagasamara tankas, there are the 4 Dakinis in the 4 directions, but not in our text, In the Sahaja, the co-emergent is just the father, mother, without the attendant 4 Dakinis. In the 5 deity Chakasamvara practice, then there is the 4 Dakinis. Further elaboration, so more detailed, for more advanced training. here is just Lord and Lady together. And the mantras to recite are only also just the 4 Lord and Lady. Not 2, not the 4. No attendant 4 dakinis. That's the meaning of co-emergent Jagasamara. Single deity, but in 2 aspects, the male and the female, the Lord and the Lady. Yeah, so good question, where? Where is more important? Continues to be important as long as this is still in the way. When this gets out of the way, then where doesn't matter. Okay, we will end here today. Please reflect on these teachings. Please don't waste your time. Don't waste my time. Take to heart, not like blindly accept and believe, but take to heart, Then you don't need to be constantly fighting yourself, fighting the teachings, fighting the teacher, feeling like you need to prove this, to prove that, show this, show that. Complete waste of your time. You want to do that? The world has plenty of opportunities for you to do that. You have entered the gate of Dharma. Why are you wasting your time? This is your hobby? Well, go look for some more interesting hobbies. Practice the Dharma as Dharma. First Dharma of Gampopa. Practice the Dharma as Dharma. Don't let Dharma become a hobby. Don't let Dharma become a business. Don't let Dharma become an intellectual exercise. Let Dharma be Dharma. Chanchu sem chorim poche ma ge ba nam ge gyurche ge ba nyam ba me ba yang go ne gong du bel war shu. So this weekend we have the Shravasti meditation program. It's not too late to register, so that especially if you're not local, to get the Zoom information. Saturday, starting from 9, I believe, to around 4. Then there's lunch break and breaks, small breaks in between. Then Sunday, kind of a half-day thing. You don't need to even think, oh, I'm going to practice this as an alternative to Monday to Friday. It's not. The way I try to teach all the things that I teach is to bring them all together. I may not explicitly tell you how to bring them together, but you should, if you are involved in the different programs, you should work towards synthesizing, bringing all of them together. Right now, don't need to even, stress yourself too much with, wow, what is my main practice? What is my main focus? Trust that will become clearer and clearer as long as you put your intention into actualizing this Vajra statement of Gilbert Rinpoche, which says, all 84,000 dharmas are necessary and included within the one complete path to awakening. This is a Vajra statement from the Gongchik. When you have that kind of understanding, then You don't need to stress over, oh, maybe this is more effective, maybe that is more effective, maybe this is more profound, maybe that is more profound. And then you jump, you know? Then in the end, nothing at all gained except how to jump. You're busy here, you're busy there, you have attended everything that is possible to attend through Zoom. Sometimes you turn up in person, but all you have done is jump, collect a little bit of gossip here, pass on a little bit of gossip over there, make some friends, make some enemies, and then samsara as usual. But put in the intention of realizing Gilbert's words, that all 84,000 constitute a single path to awakening. Therefore, all 84,000 practices and teachings are necessary. Make the intention of, may I realize this truth, then relax. Then whatever occasion of Dharma practice turns up, whoever it is, giving instructions, we can relate to that person as our root guru, instead of wasting time finding faults and picking and choosing. This is my Lama, that's your Lama. My Lama is better than your Lama. My lineage is better than your lineage. My method is better than your method. Don't do that. Okay.